And I just told myself I know he's going to catch him. And like when he caught that big one, I saw, and I just kind of tucked my hat down and where I couldn't see him no more, and just I told myself, I said, "You're fine, just calm down, and you'll get the bites you need. So and you'll have the opportunity at it." So that's what I did.
Did you lose any fish throughout the day? I know that had been a problem previously, right?
Yeah, I started out the morning. I dumped about a 3.5 pounder on a spook. Threw up. They come up school, and I threw up there. And as soon as it hit the water, I twitched it twice, and he exploded on it. And I said, "There he is!" And he jumped about 10 reel turns in and threw the spook. And man, it was hard not to get down on myself, but I mean, I've done it every day, and I've lost big ones every day. And I was just like, you'll get some more bites and just roll with it and let the chips fall where they may.
Gotcha. I think going into it, we talked a little bit earlier about this is your last year fishing college, and you've got a pretty good package in front of you now from Bassmaster. Why don't we talk a little bit about that real quick, and then we can talk about the special part of it.
So the package, that's something every college angler dreams of. There's thousands of guys out there, and every season, everybody gets a schedule and everybody's fired up, and you look at the schedule, and you're like, I think I can catch them there. I think I can catch them there, and leading up, the whole goal of the beginning of the season is qualify for the national championship because you cannot get to the bracket unless you make it to the championship. And so we qualified. I think it was at Smith Lake, or no, it was Lake Cumberland, and went into the national championship. Never been to St. Lawrence, and to go out the first day and bust the biggest bag of the tournament and be leading the tournament, man, I was like, we got a shot at this, and we ended up finishing second. And two of our best friends, Hayden and Griffin from Adrian College, won, so that was even more special for us because we knew all four of us were going to be in the bracket, and 4 out of the 8 guys had a shot, and even all 8 guys in the bracket, man, we all knew each other, and it made it pretty special.
So this was your last year. We got to talk a little bit about the Bethel Auburn rivalry there. You took the lead there with the win. It's with 3-2 now, correct?
Yep.
I'm having some problems with this thing streaming on Facebook, so just you keep talking, and I'm going to deal with this.
Okay. Yeah, Auburn, they're a great team, man. Every single one of them guys, Logan and Tucker, they won AOY, and that's an accomplishment in themselves. And that's why I told them boys, even Logan got knocked out first round, but I said, dude, you literally have nothing to hang your head about. You guys did out and did something that all of us wish we could do, and that's win AOY. And in my opinion, team of the year or AOY in any standings is by far the best you can get. I mean, look at Seth Filer this year. He did something very special, and that's what I told them boys. I was like, just hang your head high, man. No matter what happens, one of us is going to the Classic, and it ended up being me and Tucker in the finals. And to go up against that little hammer, man, he's a special young kid, and he's got a bright future ahead of him. And I was just, I was blessed with the opportunity to go up against him.
Yeah, well, he won something like 3 high school championships or something like that.
Yeah, he's three back to, or he won 3 years in a row. National.
Yeah, back to back, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about. I don't think this thing's streaming on Facebook, so we'll just have to run with it on YouTube here. Your 5th year in 2019, Potomac River, you had a heartbreaker. What happened there?
For Potomac, me and Dakota Pierce, which was originally my partner for 4 years, and we went out, and after the first day, we were sitting in third, busted a really good bag. It was 17 pounds or something like that. And second day, we backed it up, and going into the final day, we was in second place. And at that time, it was up for grabs. Was a Forest Wood Cup, and the team that won got to go to the Forest Wood Cup as boaters, both of them, and
right.
That was in the back of our heads too. And we went out, man, and did all we could do, and lost by 3 ounces. And it was a heartbreaker. I cried like a little baby, but God has a plan for me. That's what I kept telling myself. He said, my time's coming, and I've had three second place finishes in college, two national championships, and open on Kentucky Lake for FLW. About won a boat, lost by a couple ounces there too. So it made it even special to go out. 5 years of college, not having won one yet, and to go win the bracket. Man, it's hard to beat.
So going into this bracket event, talking to you last week, you were pretty calm about it, even though it was your last attempt to win this title, and that 3 ounces came back into play, didn't it?
Yeah, that's the first thing my dad said. He was bawling his eyes out, and he come up to me, and the first thing he said, "You got your 3 ounces back." And man, I lost it right there. I was like, I didn't even think about that, so that made it pretty special.
Were there any, Tristan? Were there any particular baits that played into this week for you that you want to talk about?
Yeah, for sure. Going up right here 30 minutes down the road from Kentucky Lake, it's starting to be my favorite time of year, and that's getting on them shallow bars and slinging a big topwater around. And this time of year, it's famous all across the country for catching them on topwater. And this week, my key topwater was a Zero Spook, and I really don't. I hardly ever throw a spook anymore. I used to all the time, but on Kentucky Lake, with the wind and the waves and muddy, you want to throw something big and makes a lot of commotion like a shower blow. But going into that, Alabama River, Coosa River, I was like, man, something subtle, but still makes a lot of noise. And I was throwing the Zero Spook one knocker, and it was just real subtle. You could walk it fast. You could make a lot of commotion with it if you wanted to, but then you could slow it down and make it, kind of subtle, more of a presentation on top. So that was definitely key. I caught a lot of big fish on that, and but what won the whole tournament, and it's so stupid, and I've learned this the hard way, and I learned it from Brandon Paul because he does it winter, summer, fall, year round, and that's that dadgum drop shot. Man, it's just a fish catching bait, and you catch little ones, you can catch freaking 10-pounders on it. I mean, I've caught a 9-pounder on a drop shot, and man, it's just a confidence bait. Like for me, if I'm down and I need a bite, pick up that drop shot. You can flip it around hard cover. You can go throw in current. You can throw it out deep, throw it shallow, throw it in between, pitch it to a bluff. You can do all kinds of stuff with it, and it's just a really versatile bait that you can utilize very well. If you wanted to go deep, heavier weight, you want to be more of a kind of precise with it and be subtle. You can throw like a 1/4 ounce or a little smaller weight and finesse fish with it, but you can also power fish with the drop shot too. And that's kind of what I was doing up there in the current. But I'm sure a lot of guys are on here watch the live, and I got, there's sometimes I was throwing out there every cast and getting hung up and breaking a weight off. The last day I bet I broke off 50, 60 weights. But, then you go on, 20, 30 casts in a row and you don't get hung up, and that's when you start catching them. So that was definitely a key thing for me was the drop shot. And, but of course, I caught a lot of big ones on the spook too.
Right. The drop shot, I know you have a special company that you work with on some drop shot stuff. If you want to maybe talk a little bit about the weight company.
Yeah, absolutely. So first contact I got with them this year, and they make a teardrop drop shot weight, man, and that is a bad son of a gun. And up there in the current, I started out with a 1/2 ounce, but I was like, man, I lost a few, and I was like, this just feels too heavy. I was hitting the bottom too quick, and I switched to 3/8. And that was really, I feel like, the difference maker, because most of my bites I was getting up there in the current on that seam was as soon as it hit the bottom. And I'd throw up there, it hit the bottom, I clicked the bell, and they already have it. So that was definitely a key feature for that. First contact, man, you can get them on, go check them out on Instagram and Facebook also. They make some great products, and they're definitely a great company.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about, again, let's get back to keeping your head in the game when things weren't looking so good. It amazes me at 23 how you can be so mentally strong. And is it just from fishing, or is that just in your DNA? Is it fishing a lot? Is taught you to be like that? Most guys would spin out in that situation.
Yeah, so before fishing got brought into my life, I grew up riding horses, and I started out as very, very young. My mom and dad threw me on a horse, and I did very well in that. So, my whole life I've always been in competition and been under pressure. So going into the bracket, I told myself every morning, like Saturday was the first day. I said, "Hey, you're just fishing a Saturday fruit jar. Just go out there and fish. Don't worry about nothing. Just go have fun." And me and Stevie this year talking about having fun. We started out pretty slow, and we went into one tournament. And I think it was on Cumberland. Terrible practice. I mean, we caught like 3 or 4 fish in practice. I looked down the night before. I said, "Hey, dude, let's just go have fun." And that's really when it started. I realized it that you can't get down on yourself, with a terrible practice because each day on the water. Zach Burge tells me all the time. He texts me, "Tomorrow's a new day," and that's totally the truth. And especially on the river system, no matter what happens in practice, you can't rely on what happened, the day before. Every day's a new day on the river, and these fish position different, and the water flows up and down so much. So that was definitely huge. But I mean, the pressure, man, I just try not to let it get to me. I just try to go out there and have fun and focus on what's in front of me, and that's me and the fish, because that's all you got to do to beat you against the fish.
Right, exactly. And I know you said, I saw it in the article somewhere, where you just got up there and you pulled your hat down and you went to work. I still say that there are not many adults that, adult seasoned veterans that could handle that kind of pressure, knowing what was on the line. And going into the tournament again, like I said the other night when we talked last week, you were just so calm. I mean, it was crazy to me how you could be so calm about it. And even like now, I think most guys would be jumping up out of the seat because they're going to the Bassmaster Classic, and you're calm. I mean, it's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, man. I'm calm, but I mean, it's just like I'm still in awe, like what even happened, man. It's just such a blessing, honestly, and I'm just so glad to have the opportunity to, not just for me, but to represent all of the college field and to go out in my last tournament with a bang.
Right. So, looking back at your career, your young career, what advice would you give to somebody that was maybe wanting to follow in your footsteps?
I mean, Iaconelli's famous for it. It's just, it's never give up. And my biggest thing is, God's got a plan for everybody, and if you trust in Him, He will take care of you. And just go out there and have fun. I mean, every day we get on this earth is, it's just a blessing, especially in today's world. Every day we get is just God's blessing that we can go out and enjoy His creation and be able to do that for sure.
Right. And another thing that plays in there, I think, is hard work and sacrifice. I mean, I'm sure there've been weekends when your friends have wanted to go out and go to a concert or whatever the case may be, and you were like, "Man, I can't do it. I gotta get up in the morning and fish. Maybe, a tough day of practice, and you're too tired to go out, or a tournament day." I feel like it's that kind of dedication that separates for lack of a better term, the men from the boys.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you've got to have the want to do this sport. Because I promise you guys, it's not easy. It's a lot of time away from your mom and dad, your girlfriends, your wives, if you got kids, you're away from your whole family, and you've literally got to dedicate your life to this sport to be able to make it. And like
Right.
I was up in New York for 2 months, man, and I wanted to be home, but I was like, in my head, I was like, this is what I've got to do to learn, these northern fisheries, and it ended up paying off, because if I wouldn't have stayed up there and did that, I mean, I really don't feel like I would have done that good at St. Lawrence.
Right. Was there any homesick issues that you ran into while you were gone?
No, not really. Like I said, growing up riding horses, man, I was gone from home all the time, and we moved so much, and but I mean, just being able to call my mom and dad every day, that's the biggest thing for me, is being able to talk to them, and I'll talk to them for 20, 30 minutes a day, and they miss me, I miss them, but it's definitely a sacrifice by no means.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about the Bethel Auburn rivalry. Bethel's a powerhouse in bass fishing. Auburn, look who's come out of there that they're fishing professionally now. What do you think makes that program at Bethel so good?
I mean, Garrett Mason, he recruits all of us, and he's an awesome coach. He has our back no matter what. And but the thing, I mean, every team says this. It's a brotherhood. It's like you got fraternities and sororities in college, but then there's bass fishing. You got
Right.
those guys that will have your back night and day, any time of day, 24/7, no matter what. And all of us over there at school, man, throughout my 5 years, I mean, I've gained friendships and brotherships that will last a lifetime. And me and Stevie, he's my partner this last year, and we grew up here in the same town. And we really, we knew each other, but we really didn't know each other like that. And now looking back at it, us fishing, and man, that's a brothership that'll last a lifetime. But I mean, Auburn's the same way. I mean, them guys, they're awesome, and they're all a bunch of brothers over there too. But Bethel, it's a very special place. I mean, if you guys are looking to try to go to college, young high school guys, be looking at those higher end schools, Auburn, Bethel, them up classers, because you can follow in some footsteps that can change your life.
For sure, it's definitely a life changing event for you. Even though you had your path pretty well laid out before we started. I gotta say that we're streaming on Facebook now. I'm not quite sure what happened, but guys, if you're just joining in, some technical difficulties. That's the beauty of live. We got Tristan McCormick with us tonight. He just won the college bracket championship, and dude's a hammer. I've been hearing about you. Kazi's been telling me about you for, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years. He said this kid's going to be something. And
technical difficulties, guys. Nothing new. That's the problem with media. We'll get back going in a second. Hang with us.
There you go.
There, yeah.
Knock yourself out of the studio, huh? The joys of this live streaming, man. It's awesome.
Yeah, we'll get it going here in a minute, huh?
Yeah, I got excited about the Facebook thing, and then it all went downhill from there. I forgot where I was even at, Tristan, so catch me up.
I was talking about, the brothership of Bethel University, how we got there. And, like I said, again, for the younger high school guys, focus on high school and, start building a name for yourself like Tucker did. I mean, everybody knows Tucker Smith, and because he won, he's a back-to-back national championship, just like everybody knows Jordan Lee. He's a back-to-back, Bassmaster Classic. And that'll stick with you for your life. Even when you're, 30, 40 years old, guys will still be like, man, Tucker, he won 3 national championships in a row. So go out there and build a name for yourself. And, if you have the mindset and the want to, you can achieve those goals by no means.
Right. As far as I guess the other thing is being such a young age, you fish a diversity of fisheries, and you're good on all of them. Is there any advice you could share there, to some of the younger anglers, but also there's a lot of older guys that, may do good on their home body of water, but they go out of town and they struggle, or, a tidal river versus a highland lake.
Yeah. So, Tommy Sanders texted me, before the bracket started. He texted all of us, and he was like, what's your strengths and weaknesses? And I said my weakness was being versatile and not getting stuck on one thing. And that's something, to be honest, that I did this week. I was being versatile. I fished new water every day of the tournament. If I had a gut feeling, I'd run and do it. So, I mean, my advice is, like, I've had this problem for years, and that's, whatever happens in practice, you can keep that in the back of your mind, and, you can go run some stuff you caught fish off in practice, but be open-minded. If you see a tree over there, a lay down, You want to go flip it? Well, pull over there and flip it. It takes, a minute, 2 minutes. If you get a bite, you're like, stuff starts clicking in your head. You're like, okay, let's go. And but that's my biggest advice is just be open minded. Don't get stuck on one thing. And if you can be a versatile angler, you can by no means do it anywhere in the country.
Right. I mean, that you talked about that gut feeling, and I think we've all at some point had that happen where you're running down the lake and you see a tree, you may have never fished it before, and pull over and catch a good one off of it, and that can key everything in. And I think back to another Iaconelli accolade, I guess, is fishing the moment. You can't get caught up on what happened yesterday. I think you said Zach told you the same thing. It's a river system, so it can change daily, right?
Yeah, and that's another thing too. Me and Tucker both did it, and I know he said it just as well as I did. We went and fished the conditions each day. We knew. I mean, each day we was up there at that dam below Bolton and or below Jordan. I'm sorry, in the Bolton Canal. The current was different every day. One day I got up there and there was no current, and then they kicked it on. And one day I got up there and there was flowing, and then they stopped it. So you got to fish the conditions and just roll with your gut. I mean, I know you hear everybody say that, but it's honest to goodness the truth. I mean, if your gut's telling you something, no matter if it's wrong or right, I mean, just follow it, because if you follow it enough, there's gonna be some right times that it's gonna accomplish you to the top.
Right. And you hear all the time about guys that win practice but don't do that good in the tournament, and that's because the conditions change and they're not able to move and change with those conditions. So I think that might be an advantage that you younger guys have, where it's things that change so rapidly as you've grown up from all the technology, that you're able to make that adjustment a little bit better.
Absolutely.
How about, let's talk a little bit about your electronics this past week, and how did that play a part in you catching the fish, or you just winging it?
So my electronics, I always try to utilize them every time I'm on the water. Up there in the current, you really can't utilize them because there's so much current, like on your forward facing sonar, even on 360. You can see the current and you can't get the picture view to see the fish. So up there, it really didn't matter. But like when I left and I was, running around flipping a jig, and especially them spots, I mean, those spots will get up in those trees and suspend, a foot to 2 foot under the water. So I could just pan around with my active target and I'll be like, oh, there's 2 or 3 of them right there. And even going down the bank, I mean, there was one time on live where I sit there and jack like 30 of them, but they were all little. And I was literally sitting there looking at them, flipping a jig to them, and they'd follow it down and bite it. I'd be like, get ready, here he is, and doink. So, I mean, you could always utilize your electronics, and I'm not saying that's, a must for, a new fisherman or somebody that don't know much about electronics, because they are very expensive, but they're a tool that you can keep in your bag and, use. If you learn how to use them the right way, they can definitely benefit you.
Right. And with that being said, how many people do you think get hung up on that, and it ends up hurting them on the back end because they're too trying to be too focused on the electronics?
I mean, yeah, it's hard not to. Like, I even got caught up in it one day of the bracket, and I was sitting on a lay down, and a tree come way out. It was a current was blowing around it. There was, a school of 30, 40 spots sitting there, and I caught a few of them right off the rip, and I kept there, and I kept fishing for them. I'm like, I'm in my head, I'm like, why are you fishing for these things? They're all like 14 ounces. So you do get caught up in the moment, but you got to know when to go and when to stay. So I mean, that is definitely a big thing. I agree with you there. It's you got to have that half and half where you know where to go, know where to stay, and how to utilize them.
Right. So, and I still say some of that, the best tool you have is your gut. I mean,
yeah. Oh, absolutely.
It really is, and it's amazing to me how that happens. That feeling comes over you. I think Randy Howe said it when he won the Classic. He had this.
I mean, he did a complete 360. He
turned
the boat around. He said, "We got to go back." So I mean, follow your gut. That's your biggest. That's your biggest. The feeling you have. Roll with it.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about the boat you run. They're friends of both of ours, and I think having the right fishing platform definitely makes a difference.
Absolutely. So I run the brand new Blazer 650 Pro Tour, and I got on with them last year. And the 650 come out last year, and I was fortunate enough to run the fourth one ever built. And and it's a bad to the bone boat. But the coolest thing is like the Blazers built by fishermen, so they know what we expect, what we need, anything from the padded front deck to the seats to the work area on the console where your graphs are gonna go. So that's a huge thing. But that Blazer 650, man. If we want something, the coolest thing is like I could call Keith or Bud or anybody and say, hey man, we need to do something about these seats or whatever, and they'll start they'll start brainstorming, thinking about it, and we'll make a change, and it's like wow. So that's Blazer's a big family, man, and I'm so blessed to be a part of Blazer, and
Right.
that's 650, man. I mean it's a bad to the bone, and I had every day I had me and two guys in the boat, my camera guy and a marshal, and 50 gallons of fuel, and we was running 72, 73. I mean, rolling. Tucker was behind me, and I mean, we just pull away from everybody. And that turn, I mean, on the river, we was taking 90-degree turns, and you could turn that boat and never check up on speed. I mean, you can go into a turn, run 72 mile an hour, and you'll run 72 the whole way through the turn.
Right. And that's usually something that in the past you've given up for speed, you've given up the fishability of the boat, or vice versa. And it looks like Blazers pretty much got it figured out. It's a good rough water boat, and it's got good top end, and the fishability. When you get a little bit older, you'll find out that the speed, that 72, 73, doesn't mean as much as being comfortable when you're fishing. And it seems like they've accomplished that in that 650.
They've succeeded over the top with it. Just the fishing platform of it, from the fully padded front deck to the compartments to the rod box. How the trawl motor is. I mean, all that stuff comes into factor when you spend 200 plus days on the water on that boat. And I mean that's your work area. And I mean if you're trying to do this, you want a comfortable work area each day on the water. And man, they've succeeded at that so much it's not even funny.
I know I did a video a month or so ago with Jason Lambert, and one of the coolest things I think about that boat is they still have switches in them rather than push button panels. And as well as I do, and anybody watching, if they've had a boat with push button switches in it, it's going to give you problems. There's not a question.
Absolutely.
And at least with the switches, they're where a normal guy can fix it or come up with a workaround to at least have that device or whatever work for that day. It's not high tech over the top.
Right.
So that's the one thing that stuck out to me, that they it's a new age boat, but the things that really matter, they have I'm not going to say dumbed down, but they made it so your average guy, if you run into a problem on the water, you can fix it. You can make a repair right there.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't know if you've thought about this, or like for me, if I have a switch go out, there's two auxiliary switches on that panel, to where I can just I keep a screw gun in the boat. I can pop that panel off, take that auxiliary switch, move it to my bilge pump, and I have a brand new switch, and I'm ready to roll.
Right.
So I mean, that's something you couldn't do with push buttons or a touch screen or something like that. That when one thing goes out, the whole thing goes out.
Right. We're getting some questions piled up here a little bit. Are you ready to get some of them?
Let's get it.
All right. This one's a good one. I want to see how you want to answer it. Bassmaster Salad. I like the name. So let me pop it up there. Oh, what the heck? Can you see it?
Yeah. How do you afford all these tournaments being in college? LOL. So that's a good question. I'm fortunate enough to grow up in a family to where my mom and dad helped me a lot. But the biggest thing for me is having sponsors like Blazer Boats, that can take you in your corner and help you throughout the whole year. And, really kind of, take the pressure off of you. Because if you, like we've talked about this before, if you go into a tournament saying, hey, I got to cut a check, you're not going to make it. So, I mean, you've got to find people that, can trust in you. I mean, even if it's $1,000 sponsor, that's $1,000 you didn't have. I mean, that's a lot of gas in the boat. You know what I mean? So any little sponsor you can get, I mean, that's huge.
Right. I agree with you totally on that part, but on the other side of it, I feel like you have to make a lot of sacrifices.
Oh, you do. I mean,
You know,
you've got to sacrifice your life.
maybe it's not going to the beach for a week or whatever. You're gonna have to give up things to live the lifestyle that you live, and
Yeah.
it's instead of going out and getting a steak dinner, maybe you go get a can of Vienna sausages and a
No,
pack
absolutely.
of crackers. I mean, we've all done that for sure.
Like for me, I mean, I'd rather everyone's like, "Hey, go on a Friday night with us. Let's go do this and that." I'm like, man, I'd rather just save my money and
Right.
do.
I think people don't realize, it's probably really hard being a college student because there's so many temptations to go out and do whatever. Um, but you have to stay home in order to be able to maintain, gas in the boat or, bait,
Absolutely.
all of it. It's, again, it's not an expensive, a cheap sport, but I think if you dedicate to it, you can,
You can find a
achieve
way to
it.
make it work. Yeah.
Right, for sure. And it's story after story. I can't think of any off the top of my head where guys, gave up everything they had to go do it, and they succeeded. Now, there's probably as many that have failed, but you gotta try. If you something you really want to do.
Yep.
So, all right. I don't know how in depth you want to get into this one, but Blake Horton wants to know about your rod and reel setup you use for drop shot.
Yeah. So I'll keep it pretty simple there. The rod and reel, like I throw Smoke Creeks, and it was a 7.3 medium heavy. So I mean, a lot of guys, depends on how you're fishing for a drop shot. Whether it's deep, open water, a lot of current. The action really, defines it, separates it for every type of fishing you're gonna do. But like up there in the current, I had it on a 7.3 medium heavy and a little more stiffer rod, but still had a lot more tip in it, to where I could get them fish out of that current. It's just like smallmouth. I mean, Ricky, when you hook a big one in the current, I mean, you can't stop them. So I could use that rod to my advantage to kind of bring the fish to me, so I can get them in quicker. And the reel, I use a 641 Shimano Banford, and I got a few of them this year, and it's the baddest spinning reel I've ever used. It's smooth as butter, man. That drag. That's what some. I did it too. I used to buy the $49.99 spinning reels at Walmart or whatever, Dick's, and if you're going to be a true spinning rod fisherman, you got to have a good reel. It all starts with the reel and the drag system.
All right, there's lots of people saying hi on here, and lots of people saying hi.
It's awesome.
My buddy Rick Williams on here. He want to tell you congratulations, great tournament. I think this is a pretty good question that we can take a look at.
When are your deciding factors on when to abandon your initial game plan? Like we said again, follow your gut. The day before the final day, I was sitting up there in the current. I sat up there until the break. And the final day, I sat up there. I think it was like 9:45 or something. I looked down. I said, "We got to go." Because I mean, I wasn't really mentally in it right then because I've been lost so many big ones, and I'm watching Tucker catch them, and I needed to go. I needed to get away. And in the back of my head, the whole time, every time I lost one, I was like, I could run my sand stuff and potentially catch 15 pounds in 5 casts.
Right.
So I mean, to know when you got to abandon your whole game plan going into the day, because we all have a game plan. Sitting that blast off that morning, I'm gonna start here, and then I'm gonna catch 2 or 3 here, and then go to the next hole and catch 2 or 3. It don't ever work like that.
Never.
Ever. You can wash everything out. I mean, any game plan you had, buddy, is out the window. I mean, it's just fishing the conditions. If it's raining, go do what you think you can catch them on the rain. For me, it's throwing a topwater. Overcast conditions, those fish are going to feed up and be more active throughout the whole day, especially this time of year, with it still being hot. If you got cloudy, rainy conditions, those fish are going to feed more and more and more throughout the day, instead of it being sunny and you have a 2-hour bite period in the morning. That's all you have.
Right. All right. So this one we kind of already answered this one, but I want to get it again just because I think it's pretty important to understand this. Logan Sullivan wants to know again. Hang on, how do you afford it? How do you fish all over the country? And Logan, it Tristan will tell you it's a lot of sacrifice. I mean, it's the bottom line is a lot of sacrifice.
It is. We've said it a million times a night. You've got to dedicate your life to the sport, because I mean, if you're just going to be a weekend angler, you can't. I mean, you can't go out and do this for the rest of your life. I mean, you've got to sacrifice the time, the effort, and the want to is the biggest thing. The want, the drive. You know, it's hard to wake up every morning at 5 o'clock to get out there before the sun goes up, and then fish till 7, 8 o'clock at night till sunset, and to dedicate your whole day to that and to mentally stay in it. You're starving, your back's hurting, several days in a row. I mean, you've literally got to dedicate your life to it.
All right, so I'm going to pop this one up here for you, Tristan. That's obviously something that you're going to be able to answer. Does that have anything to do with you? It's the Legends of the Fall, dude.
That's funny because that's how my parents named me. That's where they got my name from, Legends of the Fall.
Explain that a little bit.
So my mom and dad were watching a movie, and my mom was already pregnant, and that she's gonna get a kick out of this. So that's literally how they named me. I mean, Tristan in that movie he had long hair, and I think he saved his wife or something like that. And my mom looked at my dad and was like, "That's what we need to name our son." So that's funny.
All right, here's one from April Wheeler. Hopefully you can direct her in the right direction.
So the Jesus shirt I was wearing, I'm actually gonna print my logo, McCormick Fishing. I'm gonna make a special edition merchandise for shirts and sweatshirts with the Jesus quote. And I'm gonna have I don't know if I'm gonna have it on the front like I had my shirt, or put McCormick Fishing on the back or whatever. So that will be coming soon, April. Give me a follow on Facebook or Instagram, and I will eventually hit the market with them and post about it, because I've had a lot of people ask me about that shirt.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll hook up and do something with that as well, to help
Absolutely.
promote it. Here's another one. This is a good one.
So this is one of my best friends right here.
All right.
How did you get into fishing? Who or what was the biggest inspiration? So, like I said again, starting with my life, I grew up riding horses, and one of the funnest, most, times I grew up on a farm. We had 4 or 5 ponds, a bunch of big largemouth in it. And my grandpa, Keith Mountain, Papa, I'm sure he's watching. He's the one that got me into this sport. We used to go out there in a little paddle boat, and man, we'd catch so many freaking bass, and it was so much fun. And I tell him all the time I owe it all to him, and he's a big reason behind why I get to chase this dream called fishing.
That's awesome. Here's one from Blake Horton. We hadn't talked about this at all, and we can touch on it.
So the line and leader, I'm throwing Power Pro 10-pound Power Pro braid, the yellow high vis, and for the leader, I'm throwing 8-pound Sunline. I usually don't do that, but when I went up north, I usually throw like 12-pound braid, but I wanted that smaller diameter because I didn't know if I was going to be able to use, or if I wanted to use 8-pound or 6-pound up north. So with the smaller braid to a smaller leader, your knot cinches a lot tighter. So you don't have like a big braid type pony, and then you got your fluorocarbon tied to it. I wanted both of my fluorocarbon and my braid to kind of be the same diameter, if that makes any sense. So I mean, that's definitely a good question. The line, I mean, I play around. I'm not sponsored by any line company. I mean, I throw Cigar, Red Label, and VizX. I mean, I throw it all, man. I'm trying to find that. The 8-pound line is a big thing for me on a drop shot, and I started using that Sunline this summer up north, and man, I have not had a problem with it. It's a bad to the bone line. It's a Sunline shooter, 8-pound.
Right. A lot of guys use that Sunline.
Yeah, it's tough
cool.
too. I mean, that 8-pound, dude. I mean, I brought in trees with it on a drop shot. It does not break. I mean, it's as long as you take care of it and tie a good lead or not, and a good knot to your hook, you should be golden.
So Rick Williams had another question that's more tournament related, and it's a good one. Talk a little bit about the practice time you had, and how you came up with a plan A and plan B. Did you know going into the tournament this is kind of what I'm going to do, or did it develop on the water?
No, I knew what I was going to do. So in practice, I started out on the river, flipping trees on the top water. And I actually waited till later in the day to go up to the current. I think the first day of practice, I went up to the dam at like 10, 11 o'clock because we all put in at the same time. We was all running down the lake or down the river, and we got down there to the mouth of the canal, and every freaking boat shot up to the dam. And I was like, yeah, well, I'll come back later there. So I went up there later on that evening and just kind of looked around. I really didn't fish. I just trolled around, kind of sat there and watched the current, watched the seams. And the next morning I started there, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is where I need to start. I was watching. I caught a 4-pounder up there, like second or third cast in practice, and I was just sitting there watching them blow up on this seam. I was like, yeah, I need to be here in the morning. And going into the seeding day, that's something new that Bass did this year for the bracket. That's called the seeding day. And it's basically another day of practice, but you go out and keep your 5 biggest fish, and you come back and we weigh them in, biggest bag, seed one, and, down the line they go. But,
right.
Going into that seeding day, I kind of went out and did my plan B deal, which was, going to fish the river, staying out of the canal and out of the current. And because I wanted to go, more in depth with that and try to figure more ways to get bit out there besides flipping the jig and throwing top water. So I went out and did that, and that's when I found that sand stuff. And I'm sure you watched that top water blow up with that giant on that sandy flat stuff, just sandy bars, no nothing banks. And I was trolling going down the bank, and I got to the mouth of this little pocket, and I looked down, and I was like, I'm not kidding you, Ricky. There was 40 of them sitting there, just swimming right beside the boat. Oh, they're all 3+ pounders. I was like, wow. And that's when I started clicking in my head. I was like, let's go run some more of this. So this was in the seeding day. I was practicing. So I went to the next sandbar, throw a top water up there, like a 3.5 pounder. I was like, okay. Threw up there again, 2-pounder. I was like, okay. And I trolled up there, and there was like 6 or 7 more swimming down the bank. I was like, well, I just caught them out of that wolf pack. That's what I call them, wolf packs. Right. Went to the next place, same thing. So, develop a plan B. I kind of go into it as, practice. So I knew in my head, I had basically 2 days of practice. And the first day I was going to try to find what I wanted to really, really try to focus on the first day, which would be my plan A. And then the second day was plan B going into the seeding day. So, I mean, that's a good question for sure.
This was a good one, too. I want to say answer this one.
So that's my beautiful girlfriend. She the pink worm works every time. So when we first started dating, I took her out there, and she's never been fishing before. This was almost 5 years ago, and I think it was summertime, and we was sitting over 100 fish on a ledge, and I said, just throw this little pink worm out there. She always had pink clothes on, pink's her favorite color, and she threw that pink worm out there, and she is not kidding. I've seen her whack more giants on that freaking pink worm than anything.
Really?
I mean, it's insane, and that's funny because she asked, what I caught, or she didn't ask. She knew what I caught him on, and the first thing she said was when I caught her, "How about that pink worm?"
That's funny. What do you think it is about pink? I mean, I've never seen anything in the water that looked pink to me.
It's the dumbest thing ever. I still don't understand. I mean, I really don't. I mean, what's on the bottom of the lake that's pink? I don't know if they just get pissed off at it and, they've never seen it before. It's like something real bright, but it's pink. It's pink. I know that.
I think you need to come up with that answer for us. You're out of college now. You don't really have much to do except for fish. So maybe do a research paper on why they like that pink worm.
Yeah, I need to look into that for sure.
we'll have you back on to talk about it.
Watch them.
All right, here's a good one. I want to see how you answer this one as well.
What is your favorite gadget on your Blazer boat? Are we talking about graphs, everything, or just a little gadget?
Oh, yeah. Let's just say little gadget in general.
Steering wheel.
Steering wheel.
That steering wheel's so awesome, man. It's you feel like you're sitting in a race car. You get behind the wheel, you literally. I mean, the seats in the Blazer 650 are mocked up after a C10 Corvette. And so they're built around that platform of a Corvette seat. So when you're sitting in there, man, and you grab a hold of that wheel, you're just like, man, I'm in a freaking rocket ship. So that's definitely probably my favorite gadget.
I would not have thought that was going to be it, but it's a good choice.
Well, what is your? I
don't even know. I just wouldn't have thought it would have been that. I thought you'd say something like the live wells because they're big, or the seats are definitely cool in that thing. It's no doubt about it. They're definitely legitimate. Let's see. You ready for another one?
Let's do it.
I don't know if this one's got something attached to it, but
I know Hartwell pretty well. Throughout my whole college career, we've been there 5 or 6 times, and I absolutely love that place. That place is chock full of bass. It's got big largemouth in a big spot, so you can kind of pick your poison, do a little bit of both. So, but, with it being in March, early March, it's that time of year to where they could be spawning or they could be in 60 foot of water.
Right.
It just depends on how cold the winter we had and, what the weather is. But, I mean, I was there 2 years ago, that time of year, and it was happening, and there was big ones on the bank. So I'm super looking forward to get down there and start picking it apart.
All right, here we go. There's one question there I'm gonna save for the last one, but talk a little bit about a lake that you never seen before. When you get there, what do you do? Or have you done some pre-work before you get there?
I spent a lot of time on Google Earth. Google Earth is a huge factor. I mean, I really don't want to tell the secret, but I will. You can't do it on your phone, but I know that, gosh, there's going to be a lot of people mad at me, but I'll tell y'all because it is something that you can really utilize. If you get on your computer on Google Earth, you can go back in time. You can go back 20 years. And I always get on, if I've never been to a new lake, I get on Google Earth and I click back. I zoom into the bank and I click back years until I see, the water's lower, if it's high or whatever. And I really utilize, you can see house foundation stumps, lay downs, if they're still there, creek ditches in the backs of creeks. You can actually see the true ditches that no map company will show. So, I mean, the Google Earth is definitely probably, and YouTube. I mean, man, social media, YouTube's ridiculous how much they show on YouTube. So, I mean, you can really utilize YouTube to your advantage too.
Do that little trick you were talking about going back, can you do that on an iPad as well, or is it only on a computer? Just on a computer. You
can actually drop a waypoint and put an SD card in that computer and plug it into your graph, and it'll drop a dot right on it.
You probably shouldn't have gave that up. That might be like the biggest reveal ever.
But I mean, it is something very that you can utilize to your advantage for sure.
Right. It's a good one to remember because
I can't believe I just said that. Honestly.
I can't believe you did it either. Bradley Puckett saying to hush. I don't know what the deal is there, but anyway, you probably didn't make any friends with that.
Yeah, I'm sure I got mad at me.
So we can kind of start winding on down, Tristan, unless we get some more questions. But this one is another good one. They've all been great, but this one I want to hear the answer as well. Let's get it up there. So how did you feel once you caught 11 pounds on the final day? Did you think Tucker possibly had a bigger bag, or did you believe that you sealed the deal?
I thought I needed one more. I had 11 pounds with a 1/8 And in my head, at the beginning of the day, I was like, I need 12 pounds to actually have a solid shot, and because I knew he was going to catch him. And when John told me, and because it happened so quick, I caught them four back to back to back. I think Ronnie Moore told me it was like 38 minutes that it all went down, and he never told me what my weight was. And then right before the break, he was like, "Hey, you got 11 pounds." I was like, "Oh, okay." And he said, "You still got a 1.8." I was like, "Man, we need to get rid of that 1.8 with like another 213 or close to 3." And but no, I didn't. I didn't think I won. When we got back, I we got the boat loaded up. Nobody was there. Hank and John didn't let any of our parents be there because they wanted it to be a surprise. And he said, "Just pull over there to the trailer and stay in your truck." So I pulled over there. I didn't even have my phone. I got over there, got out, got my phone, and turned it on airplane mode. Didn't even look at nothing. And I started playing games on my phone, and I just sat there in the truck, and I was just like thinking through my whole head, I needed one more fish. And I mean, I'm sure you guys could tell by my facial expression, it hit me pretty hard when they revealed and it said winner. I bawled like a little baby.
It's an amazing thing to watch. That's for sure. It'll bring a tear to your eye.
Oh man, it's so hard not to. I mean, just the time. I mean, the sacrifice you make that we was talking about. It all lives up for that little moment right there. That you're a winner.
Right, that 1 second, and it all keeps going back. This whole show has gone back to a couple different things for me. The trust in your gut thing that we talked about, and the time and dedication. It's just like a kid that plays baseball. He's going to be out there throwing, hitting, training, running every day. It's no different with what you guys do, and in fact, it might be harder because. I'm not even going to go there, but I feel like it might be harder.
Yeah, I agree.
Baseball don't have much of a brain, so
they play on about the same fields every year.
Right, exact same. Bases always same. If they had the bases move where you're running at them or something, that might make it about the same. But the other thing we need to talk about is the game. You're talking about playing games on your phone. What's up with that? I heard some kind of rumor about that.
So I get a text this morning, and they're like, it's from Bassmaster. Basically said, "Hey, you're going to be a part of the 2022, Bassmaster fishing game." I was like, "What?" They said, you're going to be in the game. I was like, "Man, that is absolutely." I didn't even know anything about that, and I was just mind blown. I was like, "Man, it just keeps getting better and better." I mean, it's absolutely just such a blessing.
And John says, "Special kid right there." I'm like, "Absolutely, John. You told me years ago about Tristan, and it's just a pleasure to call him a friend. That's for sure."
Absolutely. I got so many people, man, that support me and follow me, and I've tried to text. I mean, I know I've missed messages on Instagram and stuff. I'm trying to get back to y'all, man. I had 198 text messages last night when I pulled in the driveway. And I try to respond to all of them, and I'm sure I'm trying. I will get back to each and every one of y'all. So I just can't thank y'all enough for the support, for sure.
Let's see. Ronnie McCormick was talking about the national championship you lost by 3 ounces. We talked about that earlier. You lost by 3, won by 3. It's coincidence. I don't know. I don't know.
And the whole time, that was God's plan the whole time.
Exactly. Maybe you weren't ready then. Who knows what would have happened. But here's a good one from Logan Sullivan that just popped up. Did you fish in high school, and did you have a lot of success there?
I think I fished about 3 tournaments in high school.
Really?
So how I got introduced to Gary Mason, I was actually fishing it was a pretty big tournament out of Paris Landing. He was down there, and we did pretty good in the tournament. And he come up to me and was like, "Hey, you want to come fish for Bethel University? Would you consider?" I was like, "Well, yeah. I mean, let me ask my parents and stuff and talk about it." So, when I when I was in high school, man, I don't want to say it wasn't big, but it was on the uprise, if that makes sense. There wasn't 300 boats in a tournament. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it was on the uprise at the high school momentum. It was nowhere near to what it is now. So I mean, I fished a couple. Me and Cody Thornton, one of my good buddies, we fished a couple and did really good. I mean, we won one and got fourth or fifth in a couple. I mean, the other two. So I mean, it was a lot of fun, but I mean, I didn't really get into it that much.
So here goes one, and I agree. I just don't know what the third three is going to be.
Everything comes in three, so now you just need to finish it. Bassmaster Classic. I think that's what Greg's talking about. This is actually first contact in Bass Reaper, man. Greg Warner, he's awesome, man. He's an absolute awesome guy, and the products they make are amazing. Anything from the baits to the tungsten, like we was talking about earlier. Definitely go give them a shout out and check them out on Facebook and Instagram.
Right, and you say that all tungsten. Some people say all tungsten is the same. It's not necessarily true. It's definitely qualities of tungsten, and I like the way the weights are all on the first tungsten stuff, because for me, they're so similar in size. It's nice to have that, and my boxes generally stay a mess. So
yeah, and that's what I was going to say too. I didn't touch on earlier. All of the first contact stuff, anything from the worm weights or flipping weights to teardrops, half shells, whatever, they're all labeled. So if you're getting in that rough water and your stuff gets knocked around, your weights get where they shouldn't be, you can just look at them and be like, okay, this is a half ounce, this is a 3/4, whatever. So I mean, because especially when you get down to those little bitty weights, quarter, 3/8, 5/16, stuff like that, you can't tell the difference hardly, because they're so little, but they're so heavy at the same time. I mean, they're all the same size basically. So that is definitely why I like First Contact so much, and I think they excel above other tungsten companies.
This must be another buddy, but I think
Harrison, he's actually a freshman at Bethel University. It's his first year. So that's and speaking of high school, his dad, Bill Terry, was he was our high school captain, man, and we lost Bill when Harrison was really young, and I'm proud of that kid for holding his head up and still pushing his dream, and that's big go fish for the rest of his life. So I'm super proud of you, Harrison, and just remember, I told you last night, keep your head on straight, and you can do it, man. It's something special.
And that that is being old enough to be your dad. That's something I can say, that nowadays with the struggles of everything in life, social media, everything that's going on, COVID, it's impressive to see a young man keep his head on straight. And I think with the fishing world, you see that more than most. I mean, it goes back to that brotherhood that you were talking about. That it's just I have no issues with letting my now 16-year-old go with anybody fishing,
right?
Because I know where they're going to be. I know what they're doing, and the passion that's developed, it's all he cares about, and I'm sure it was the same way with you, as in your younger days, that it's really all you thought about.
Yeah. And even now, like I don't care to go out and party, man. I'd rather sit home and focus on the bigger picture, and that's chasing this dream. And even in college, man, I hardly went to any parties, and I just like, one, it wasn't worth it because you could ruin your life, and and ruin those dreams that you're working so hard to chase. So I mean, like we said again, back to the sacrifice, man. I mean, you've got to sacrifice so much,
but the rewards can be pretty dang good, right?
Like, look at us now, baby. Yeah.
Well, Tristan, I'm gonna let you get off here and get back to your night, but man, I appreciate it. We've got some big plans. We were talking about some things we're gonna do together to keep you up to date with everything this guy has going on. I think we got the most of the questions. If we didn't, apologize. I'm sure Tristan will take any questions on social media that you guys may have. You can reach out to us on Bass 365 as well. Again, dude, you're welcome on here anytime. I told you the last week, you're welcome anytime. It's just a joy talking to you.
We'll definitely have to do it again, man. For sure.
And hey, congratulations. I don't even know if I told you yet or not, but
I
congratulations.
appreciate it.
I'll be there at the Classic rooting for you.
Yeah, and me and Ricky, we're going to try to keep everything up on Bass 365 too, with like we was talking about earlier, updates, for the Classic and whatnot, and try to follow along. So it'll be a special ride for sure.
Right, and we'll let you know about that clothing stuff when that becomes available as well.
Yep.
But guys, thanks for joining us tonight. We're going to try to get back on the Tuesday night rotation. If there's anybody particular that you want to see on here, just drop me a line on one of the pages, and we'll do our best to get them on there. That's all I got, Tristan. You got anything else? Did we miss anything?
I think we're good, man. It's like I said, thank y'all for support, man. It's been awesome, and I'm still in awe about it, man. It's just crazy that it happened.
We'll check back in a week or so after it's sunk in and just see how you're feeling.
Yeah, for sure.
What about a haircut? Is that in the future?
Yeah, I gotta call my girl Monica and have her cut my hair here pretty soon. It's starting.
Don't cut it too short, though. Don't cut it too short. All right, guys. Hey, thanks again for joining us. We're out.
Thank y'all.
Let's see.